Greetings, this is Charles Darwin, and we're continuing our study of the Bible. When we left off, I was standing out in the rain, and we were talking about the flood of Noah. This is found in Genesis 6 through 8, and according to conservatives, creationists especially, Noah's flood literally covered the entire earth and was literally responsible for all of the sedimentary layers of rock and all of the fossils found in them. I'm going to briefly go over some reasons that you may already know why this could not possibly be true. First is that the fossils have what can only be described as an evolutionary order. For instance, mammals and flowers are found only in the youngest layers of rock. I would like to issue the same challenge that J.B.S. Haldane, the famous 20th century biologist, issued. And he said, when somebody asked him, what would it take to convince you that the flood had really occurred, he said, show me the fossil of a Precambrian rabbit. I think that challenge is still valid, is it not? Show me a flower from a coal age Pennsylvania swamp. Show me a trilobite in the same layer as the bones of a whale. It would just take one. That's all it would take. Now, how do the creationists explain this apparently evolutionary order to the fossils? Well, they say that as the fossils were being formed, as the layers were being deposited, God scooched some of them here and scooched some of them there so that they ended up showing an evolutionary order. Does it say in the Bible that God did that? No, it does not. They just made that up. But they believe that God has given them the privilege of just making stuff up about Him and about the Bible. The second reason is that according to the account in the book of Genesis, there were two of each kind of animal on the ark and then released from the ark. But that is simply not enough animals to contain genetic diversity that each species needs in order to survive. Two animals could have at most 4 alleles for each of the genes. And that's simply not enough. That is in fact one of the problems that is faced by rare species when they are in danger of extinction. Not only do their small population sizes leave them vulnerable to random events in the environment, but also there's simply not enough genetic diversity to allow them to continue to adapt to changing circumstances in the environment. Now, creationists could just claim that God created genetic diversity after the flood was over, but does it say that in the Bible? No, it does not. They just made that up, but they believe that God has given them the privilege of just making stuff up about Him. The third reason is that after such a flood, there would have been massive piles of rotting vegetation, tree trunks and leaves and stems and dead animals, dead sinners as well. And when they started to rot after the flood, they would have released massive amounts of carbon dioxide. The result of that would have been a massive worldwide greenhouse effect, much exceeding anything that is predicted for global warming in our immediate or long-term future. Well, what would have prevented that from happening? Creationists would say, well, God just kept that from happening. Does it say in the Bible that He did that? No, it does not. They just made that up. But they believe that God has given them the privilege of making stuff up about the Bible and about Him. The fourth reason has to do with biogeographical patterns. There are many examples where we find that the species of the earth are located at specific regions of the earth. I'm going to use animal examples. For instance, the marsupials. There are lots of species, and there were in the past even more species of marsupials in Australia. There's a few in other places, such as the possum in North America. But why is it that if all the animals were released from the ark on the top of Mount Ararat at the end of the flood, why did the marsupials decide they all wanted to go to Australia? Did they say, hey mate, let's go to Australia? One creationist book that I read said that the reason that the marsupials were able to get to Australia is that they hopped. But you see, that doesn't really answer the question of why they would all go to Australia. Now, actually, it appears that the flood legend was based upon a local event that happened. Sir Leonard Woolley said that it was a memory of some of the floods that happened along the Tigris and the Euphrates, for instance. There's another possibility that has been raised recently, that it could be that the flood legend is a memory of a prehistoric event when what is now the Dead Sea, not the Dead Sea, sorry, the Black Sea, I'll get it right. The Black Sea, people used to live in the bottom of what is now the Black Sea before it had water in it. But as the glaciers melted, and as the waters of the Mediterranean rose, finally they started spilling over into what is now the Black Sea. It was not a catastrophic event, but it was rapid enough that the people had to get up and move and leave behind their farms and their cities. So that may have been what was happening. You see, we have a choice. When we look at the account of Noah and the ark, we have a choice. Do we take it literally, or do we appreciate the symbolism that's in it? I refer specifically to Noah releasing the dove from the ark, and the dove comes back bearing an olive branch. And what that meant, and what it means to us today when we talk about the olive branch and the dove representing peace and hope, is that Noah could say somewhere in the earth, olive trees are growing. There is hope for my survival. There is hope for us. Now, if, in fact, you literally believe that the entire earth was covered by the flood, then this symbolism means nothing. There is no hope, because the dove would have to have found that olive branch from a floating raft of vegetation. And therefore, bringing it back to Noah would have been totally meaningless. And so that's our choice. Do we accept these stories as meaning something symbolically to us, in this case, hope? Or do we take it literally and thus destroy the significance that it might have for us? This is Charles Darwin. Tally ho, and amen.